The calm of the crown, why old kings never worried about money in the great halls of ancient kingdoms, where gold shimmered under candlelight and power echoed through marble walls. There was something remarkable about the old kings. They were calm. No matter the rise or fall of markets, no matter the abundance or drought, they never worried about money. Why? Because their understanding of wealth was entirely different from ours. Wealth was never just gold. For the kings of old, gold was not the goal. It was a tool. They saw money as energy, something that moved through their hands, not something they clung to. While their treasuries overflowed with riches, they knew that the real foundation of their wealth lay in something far deeper: trust, order, and knowledge. A wise king once said, "Gold loses its shine when the mind is dull." They built economies not by chasing coins, but by building systems, trade routes, alliances, and loyalty among their people. Their wealth grew naturally as a byproduct of vision and discipline. The forgotten rule of wealth. The old kings followed an unwritten law, a principle now forgotten in our modern rush for instant success. A ruler's true wealth is measured not by what he owns, but by what he sustains. They understood that wealth decays when left idle, just as food spoils when hoarded. So kings invested in growth, farms, roads, craftsmen, and knowledge. They spread opportunity, knowing that when their people prospered, their kingdom's wealth multiplied without fear. This mindset created stability. While merchants panicked at the sound of war or drought, the king's focus remained on the long term. They played the infinite game, thinking in decades, not days. The mindset of royal calm old kings mastered something more valuable than gold: control over desire. They didn't measure success in luxury, but in legacy. They spent their days in planning, patience, and preservation. In times of crisis, they didn't ask, "How much money do we have?" They asked, "What do we control that creates value?" And because of that question, they rarely lost. Their wealth wasn't an accident of inheritance. It was the outcome of discipline, perspective, and power used wisely. The modern lesson today: many people chase money without building a foundation. They want the throne without the kingdom. They forget what the kings knew. Wealth is not speed, it is structure. To live like the old kings is not to wear crowns or robes, but to master the forgotten rule of wealth, to build something that grows even when you sleep, and lasts even when you're gone, because the calm of the crown is not born from abundance, it's born from understanding. The secret economy of kings, how they made wealth flow, without fear in every great kingdom. Behind the marble halls and golden banners, there existed something invisible, a hidden economy, built not on luck or conquest, but on understanding how wealth moves. Old kings didn't just own riches, they orchestrated them. Their genius lay in a simple but powerful truth: money must move, or it dies. The flow of the kingdom to the wise rulers. A coin was never meant to sit in a vault. It was meant to circulate, to pass from the hands of the crown to the farmer, from the farmer to the merchant, and from the merchant back to the royal treasury through trade and taxes. Every gold coin that flowed through the kingdom carried life. It built roads, fed armies, and created trust among people. The king didn't try to stop the flow. He made sure it flowed with purpose. Where modern minds see spending, the king saw investment in stability. The king's real currency. Trust kings knew that wealth collapses without trust. Gold could be stolen, but trust multiplies wealth faster than gold ever could. That's why royal seals, promises, and trade decrees were treated like sacred contracts. A wise king could rule with less gold than his enemies. But if his people trusted him, trade would flourish, merchants would travel further, and the kingdom's wealth would grow even without expansion. "The coin of trust buys more than any treasure," said one legendary ruler. Every act of fairness, paying soldiers on time, protecting markets, honoring trade, was a deposit into an invisible bank, the faith of his people. Wealth through creation, not extraction. Many rulers fell because they took too much too fast. The old kings who lasted knew that a kingdom's wealth must come from creation, not extraction. Instead of taxing their people to death, they built opportunities, markets, ports, schools, and guilds. Each investment produced long-term wealth. A single road built by the king connected 1,000 merchants, and those merchants brought gold back to the royal treasury. The king didn't ask, "What can I take?" He asked, "What can I grow?" That is the forgotten mindset that turned small realms into empires. The circle of prosperity, when gold flowed outward, to builders, craftsmen, soldiers, and scholars, it always found its way back. Because what the king gave became productivity, and what productivity created became taxes, loyalty, and peace. This was the circle of prosperity, the law that made the old kings unstoppable. Give value to your people, and they will return it tenfold. The more stable and educated the kingdom, the stronger its wealth became, even in famine, even in war. The economy of kings was not fragile, it was alive. The modern reflection today's world calls it cash flow, investment, or economic cycles. But centuries ago, the kings already understood it intuitively. They built wealth by creating systems that produced value without their constant effort, farms that yielded every season, markets that traded daily, and alliances that protected growth. They ruled not through greed, but through design. That is why when gold disappeared, the wealth remained. The mind of a monarch, how kings thought about wealth differently from ordinary men in the silence of their chambers. When the court had gone and the fires burned low, old kings often sat alone, not counting their gold, but counting their decisions. To understand why they never worried about money, you must understand how they thought about it. They didn't chase wealth, they commanded it. Their secret wasn't in possession, it was in perspective. The king's view from above a king did not see gold the way a merchant did. To the merchant, money was the reward for a day's trade. To the king, money was a river, flowing through villages, cities, and borders. He never stood in the river trying to grab every coin. He built dams, bridges, and channels to guide it where it needed to go. This mental shift from chasing to directing is what made kings masters of wealth, not slaves to it. He who serves gold becomes its prisoner. He who commands its flow becomes free. The three pillars of the monarch mind. Every great king ruled his wealth by three unseen pillars. Vision, seeing wealth as a long game. They didn't think in years, they thought in generations. A decision made today was for the grandson's kingdom. Discipline, resisting the illusion of endless plenty. The king understood that every treasure spent unwisely weakened the throne. Delegation, trusting stewards, merchants, and thinkers. The wise kings didn't try to do everything. They built systems and trusted competent people to multiply. Value, they didn't seek to control every coin. They sought to control the environment in which coins multiplied. The balance between power and peace, every monarch knew that too much power over wealth could destroy the very prosperity he sought to protect. If the people feared him too much, trade would die. If they loved him too loosely, order would fade. So the old kings balanced both, firmness with fairness, authority with wisdom. They ruled wealth the same way they ruled their realm, with order, patience, and purpose. While ordinary men saw wealth as something to spend, the king saw it as something to sustain, a shield for his people and a seed for the future. For the king's internal rule book most. Rulers kept physical laws for their kingdoms, but the wisest kings followed mental laws for themselves. Their private codes of conduct included principles like, never take what cannot return tenfold. Wealth kept in fear rots. Every coin must serve a purpose. The mind that governs gold must first govern itself. This discipline gave them peace, even in scarcity, because they knew, as long as they ruled their minds, their wealth would follow. The crown within. The true crown wasn't made of gold. It was the crown of control. Control over greed, fear, and impulse. That is why kings slept peacefully while others worried about coins. Their comfort didn't come from having everything, but from knowing they could rebuild anything. Their wisdom built not just kingdoms, but a philosophy, a way of thinking that made them rich in any age. Gold fades, but the mind that created it shines forever.